You're watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.
A study by iSeecars.com is shedding some insight on cars that lose the most value after just 1 year, as well as those cars that are retaining the most value. And it may be surprising to some, but there are several EVs that made the list. Joining us now is Karl Brauer, who's the executive analyst for iSeecars.com. Welcome back to the show, Karl. Thanks so much for taking the time out of your schedule.
Hey, great being on with you, Jim.
Sure. So what are some of the depreciating that are, that's depreciating so fast? Can you name a few?
Sure. Well, I think it's important to kind of set the expectation, right? I mean, we know cars are supposed to lose a certain amount of value with the moment you drive them off the lot. That's generally true. And when we did our research, we found that the average car loses about 12.8% of its value after 1 year.
Okay.
So that doesn't sound too bad, 12.8%. But what we also found were there were cars that lost far more than that, like multiple times that amount. And these are cars that are losing 25, 35, 47% of their value after 1 year.
Ouch.
In the case of the biggest offender, so to speak.
Yeah.
And yeah, that particular vehicle was the Mercedes-Benz EQS sedan. And after 1 year, it had lost 47% of its value, which was the equivalent of $65,000 after 1 year.
Ouch.
Yeah, so that's a pretty painful stat to look at,
yeah.
Especially if you're one of the people who bought that car. And as you noted, the EVs are kind of all over this list. Like 5 of the top 10 fastest depreciating cars after 1 year are electric vehicles on our list here. So it doesn't really bode well if you're interested in buying an EV. Maybe you better look at the 1 year old ones and let someone else take that first hit.
Why do you think that is? Do you think that the used market is just not sure as to how to appraise these vehicles? Because it can't be that people are turning them in because they're garbage, right? They're all great cars.
Yeah, I think what it is that I think electric vehicles have a lot in common with premium vehicles in that in both cases, you generally see premium vehicles, luxury brands lose more value than non-luxury brands because new car buyers are less price sensitive. They want the brand and they'll pay what it takes to get it. Used car buyers are more value oriented. They're more price sensitive. They need to feel like they're getting a decent deal. So they won't pay as much for that premium brand. I think the same thing's happening with EVs. I think electric vehicles are bought by a lot of the same people who buy premium brands. They want an EV, they're willing to spend for one. And then the used market is far more practical, far more price sensitive. And they're like, look, I'm not buying an EV unless it completely works for my lifestyle and I feel like I'm getting a decent deal. And that means that you have to price them a lot cheaper than their new price before used buyers will step up.
Yeah, sure. There is a significant price difference between new and lightly used. What factors contribute to the difference?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really just who is willing to pay the price for these near new cars. And if you're one of the cars that's losing the most value, you've just got a small amount of demand. There's just not as many buyers out there who are interested in these particular models, even when they're only a year old, have around 13,000 miles. That was our definition of lightly used, was 1 year old and around 13,000 miles.
Okay.
And plenty of people feel like, hey, that's like a brand new car, really.
Yeah.
And some of the cars, conversely, will hold up really well. We also saw cars that instead of that 12.8% loss, they were losing 2, 3, 5% after 1 year, like less than half of the average 12.8%. And again, conversely to the cars you don't want to buy because they drop so much, 5 of the top 10 cars that held their most value after 1 year were hybrids. And that's something else I would throw out there, Jim, is that we're seeing this kind of everywhere, whether you look at days on market, whether you look at used car pricing, whether you look at new car pricing. There's like the average of all the cars, and then the EVs keep being on one side of the average, taking longer to sell, losing more value after a year, having their prices fall since last year. And then there's the cars on the other side of the average, selling faster, not losing as much value after 1 year and or holding their prices higher, and that's hybrids. Yeah. So there really seems to be this shift toward hybrids and away from EVs in the past 6 to 12 months.
That's fantastic news. But here's the thing. What makes the Land Rover, Range Rover, now I'm personally interested in this because that's what I drive, the top vehicle to buy new over used?
Well, that's a case, and you see this with other premium vehicles on that list, where you've got buyers who just want one of those cars, and they're not willing to wait, and they've probably got the money to buy one. And
Right.
so they go to their Land Rover dealer and they want a Range Rover, and the guy says, I can get you one in 3, 6, 9 months, or I don't even know when the next one's coming in. They see one sitting on the lot. Well, that one looks brand new. Yeah, that one's a year old. It's got around 12,000 miles on it. I'll sell it to you, but I'm going to want big money because I know there's 5 guys in line about to come in today to look at that.
That's what happened to me. Yep.
That's
Same
so
thing happened.
if you're competing, supply demand, that's what determines price. So if you're competing with other people who want that Range Rover and there aren't many Range Rovers out there, you probably are going to pay not just a lot for a new one, but potentially more for a used one than the new MSRP because there's no new ones to find.
We bought a new one. The salesperson called us and said, you're not going to believe this, but the person that ordered the car has already purchased another car. This vehicle is available like right now, okay? And all the salespeople have been notified of that, so it's first come, first serve. I said, okay, I'll take it. He said, oh, no. You have to be here at the dealership in order to take this vehicle. There's no over the phone, I'll take it. So we raced down there. The dealership's close by, the studio's here, and we purchased it well over sticker price. And we were kind of bummed over that. We're like, wait a minute, we're in the industry. Do you know who we are?
Right.
They're like, yeah, shut up, you're paying it. But nevertheless, the sales manager took out his computer and said, well, let me show you what they're being sold for on the used market in Miami, okay? And it was almost $200,000 that the vehicle was being sold for. We bought ours for about $135,000. So he said, don't fret over the fact that you're paying over sticker price, because if you drove this to Miami and wanted to sell it, there's an entire market down there. For some reason, I guess there's a big international business and people that are actually exporting them to other countries and what have you, South America and such. Yeah. But I thought that was interesting. It was just a craze of the vehicle. So. That's always the deal. You get these hot models and you'll never know what you're going to pay on the new or used side. That's right. So what's your take on summer sales? You think we're going to be okay, or how are things?
I'm honestly surprised how well sales are holding up. We're seeing this kind of gradual drop in pricing and transaction pricing. What we're seeing is that we're seeing as much or as higher MSRPs, but now we're seeing incentives come back that we hadn't seen for years.
Yeah.
So transaction prices are slowly coming down, yet they're still typically above MSRP. The average new car is still transacting at slightly above MSRP, but not at MSRP. But not tremendously above MSRP. Right. Because of a lot of incentives coming in, helping balance that out.
Sure.
But yeah, there's still a lot of demand for new cars. We just built such a backlog of pressure in demand for when we had the supply issue during COVID. And I keep telling people, it's like a dam, and you build that water up on the backside of the dam. When you finally pull the lever, it's going to start releasing the pressure, but you can't, unless you just blow the dam up, it's going to take a while for it to get back to the normal level. Yeah,
no question about it. And a lot of incentives now that you see on TV, 0% for 48 months or 0% for 60 months or 1.9 or what have you. So for those people that were sitting on the sidelines waiting for rates to come back down, they see incentives like that and go, oh, well, if I can get that deal, then I don't feel so bad about making the deal, right?
100%. Yeah, and it's a very smart move, assuming the automakers can afford it, the finance companies can afford it. For them to offer those low interest rates in today's world, very compelling.
Right. That's a key word there, the interest rates. So Karl Brauer, executive analyst for iSeecars.com. Thank you so much for joining us on the show, and thank all of you for watching. And don't forget, you can watch all of our content and view all of our content in the comfort of your living room now. We're on Roku and Apple TV. So thank you so much for joining us, Karl. Until next time, stay well.
Great being on with you, Jim, as always.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.